My name's Kelly Smith, and this is my recovery story. I grew up in back up. I was raised military, so we kind of moved around, but we settled in a little town called Sparta, which is where I ended up growing up. It was a lake community, a big lake community, and it was a little glass bubble because there was everything. It was just a nice little town. Growing up, my childhood it had wonderful moments and it had moments that I really struggled. I had a lot of friends. I was involved in every sport known to man. It was a wonderful existence. I was on a lake, so I was swimming with my friends. And I lived with my family, and we were all raised that it is what college are we going to, not if we're going to college. It was that we don't air our dirty laundry, of course, especially being military. A lot of my friends' families, it was a pilot community, so there was a lot of military influence, and you don't have mental health anything. Addictions were kept quiet, and families were shunned in divorce. There were a lot of expectations. I can remember at 13 that I would, like 8th grade and from there on in, I was hitting the linen closet for the Pepto-Bismol that I had a bottle that I drank out of because the anxiety level, I know now it was anxiety of going to school. Yes, I had my friends, but there are also people that weren't very nice, and I was very sensitive to people that were not nice. It affected me to see them treat people poorly, and I just didn't know how to process that. When I was 15, 16, I was working. I had my first serious boyfriend. Some things happened, and I ended up crying for hours. I had to break up with my boyfriend. I had to quit my job. And I ended up, I was up in my room, sent to my room, and I ended up taking a brand new bottle of aspirin, 250 aspirin, and took all but 2. I did not realize that happened. I had a headache, and I had been crying for approximately 3 or 4 hours, which is not normal. Sobbing for that long is just not normal. I remember calling my mother and up to my room, and I said, "You need to take me to the hospital." I was laying in bed holding my childhood teddy bear, waiting to die. And I realized that I don't want that. I just wanted the pain to stop. I was in so much emotional pain, and I didn't even realize what I did until it was, I hate to say too late, but it almost was. My mother comes up and I tell her I need to go to the hospital, and she goes down, and because I showed her the bottle, and she said, "I just put that bottle in." And I said, "I know." And so she ran downstairs, told my father, and he's like, "Bring her up some milk." She brought up milk, and I said, "No, Mom, I need to go. I'm not feeling well. I need to go now." And so she yelled at him. They got me in the car, raced me to the hospital. The hospital staff was questioning me and everything, and about, of course, the whole situation. And they were pumping my stomach, and when the blood results, I'll never forget this, the blood results came back, and a nurse came running in and said, "She's toxic." I'm 16, okay? I know what the word means, but what does that mean physically? And the doctor said, "Well, young lady, I think you may have succeeded. I don't know if I can save you." I heard my mother screaming out in the hallway to get our priest, our family priest. And so I was in and out of consciousness at that point. And I remember waking up to him giving me last rites. And so I was in the hospital for a few days. A psychologist came to sit with me and was asking me, "What is it that you want to do when you grow up?" And I already had in my head what I was going to be doing, which was helping people because of I just have that, sensitivity, that compassion, that sympathy, empathy. And I just You know, I said, I want to do what you're doing. I want to help people. And he, you know, further delved into stuff and tried to get me into counseling, and my father refused. Military. There is no problem. We will take care of this at home. How dare you do this to the family? He was raised the same way, you know, so of course that follows suit. I went to college, and my sophomore year, my first semester, I started getting phone calls. I ended up going home. My ex-boyfriend had called me. I didn't answer. He kept bothering me, wanted to get back together, and I wasn't even taking his calls at that point. And I got a call from my friend who told me that he took his life, and he had tried to call me. And so there was a guilt in that, of course. I was 19 at that time, and I went home for the funeral. And so at that point, I ended up helping all the families because I understood what it was like to survive it. We had a very volatile community. It was a very, it was affluent, but it was also very depressed, and especially the kids. And so here I am running back and forth. I dropped out of college because of the fact I was missing all my classes and everything, and ended up realizing I need to do this, you know, so it was kind of, and then I went to work for a bit, and that's when my mother took her life. So she was the one who had, just to give you an idea of what I was dealing with, is that our house, here I am back from college, our house became a sanctuary for all of the teenagers. We had 30 plus kids staying in my house, floors, every bedroom, all the floors, all the beds, all the chairs, everything was taken. Our basement completely, literally floor to floor, like person to person on the floor sleeping. Parents were dropping off food. I'd open the door, I'd hear something outside, I'd open the door, and there'd be bags of food. People, all the parents, because they just wanted their kids safe, and they knew that they were with my mom and they were safe. And so they were dropping off food to help pay for all their food, and having pizzas like randomly brought to the house. And it was such a community wake-up call, I think is what it was. And you know, of course, everything evolved out of it. People got the help. The house slowly, over the next 2 months of this, 2 months ended up going down to, you know, just this one person who ended up living there. And then when that person finally left, and you know, my parents ended up getting divorced. Like I know I'm fast tracking. I'm just trying to give you a little bit of my story to understand. 5 minutes is going to be a hard one on this, and you're going to have to figure this one out, my friend. So I ended up back in. My mom took her life, and that's what made me go back to school. I was actually law enforcement. I was living in Allentown. I needed to escape. I lived in Allentown. And I was law enforcement. I went to the Poconos, was doing it there. And then my mom disappeared with my gun, first time. She ended up inpatient. Second, and I started locking my gun at work. I didn't even know this was a problem. And she was an alcoholic and on too many medications. Ended up going to, she ended up taking my hollow points, and that's when she took her life. And that was, she disappeared. And she and I always got together, always for my birthday and every Monday for lunch. She came to my office. I was putting together Route 287 as a construction specialist. At that time, I was like doing part-time police and doing that. After my mom passed, I was getting some help. I found a therapist through some encouragement of some friends, and I ended up finishing school, got my degree, and I went right into social services. I was bringing suicide awareness to the Poconos in the 90s when it was just something that was still kind of hush-hush. And it was something that was just driving me. You know, do I still feel pain, you know, around Mother's Day? Yeah, it's not always the best. My birthday, not always the best either, because it just reminded me that I lost her that day, you know, she left us. And but in the same token, I know how tortured she was, and that's where the story of forgiveness with me comes, is that, you know, I can't hold my family responsible. These are mental health things. I was able to identify as I got older and more educated. I can look at, yeah, my mom was tortured. Her chemicals were all over the place. They found 32 medications that she was taking, and none of them should have been intertwined. This is before the drug companies were in there saying this one interacts with another. So she was not herself. I cannot, under any circumstances, hold her completely responsible for this, you know. So, and the same with, you know, the family. People are products of their environment and how they're raised. And I just, you know, I look at my father, who was military, and, you know, he came from a very strict, quiet, you know, household. And so he was who he was because of that. I ended up becoming a little more sensitive, I should say, and a lot more sympathetic and empathetic to the loss. I had so much loss, and from my own all the way through very dear friends to my, of course, family, and even my clients. As I've worked in the social services field, I've been here for over 36 years trying to do good, you know. So been trying, you know, to bring all of my losses to help others, you know, at least have an understanding, and to, as we all say, we're trying to fight the stigma. I had no control over those feelings. I wasn't sitting there intentionally trying to do anything. I know my own recovery story was, it was work. I had to take my medications, and when I didn't, I was a hot mess. Yeah, so here I am now at PureStar, just, you know, trying to do some good and help others with the same struggles that they're having, and all the way from, you know, the raw initial time periods to the times that they're actually working through the recovery. I take joy in people doing well, and every smile, I just realize I see the endorphins, I see the happy. It's a wonderful thing. I think one thing I'm going to add is that I know that people's stories can be triggering. I know that because they were for me, and they still are in some way, but I also take it to heart that somebody else knows what I've been through. At some level, grief is grief. There's different depths of it, but it's loss. And I think that just knowing somebody went through it, no matter what level it was, they kind of get it. And reaching out to that is the most important thing, is to know that you are not alone. I had a friend when I was in recovery, as a teenager even, that one person only that I could trust all of my thoughts with. And we're still friends. Here we are so many years later, that I can tell her all these things and she understands because she was there. She was there at my mother's funeral. She was there when all of these other catastrophic things happened to me. And she's always, even though she lives in Connecticut, she is still there. No matter what, I know I can call on her. But people are there for you.